Okay, let's dive in. So, picture this scene. You're on a totally routine flight. You're in the seat you booked like weeks ago, paid for it, you showed up on time, everything's good.
It's a great seat, too. 2A.
Exactly. They've got your platinum member card, you did everything by the book, and then, boom, someone asks you to move.
Yeah, and it spirals into something, well, much bigger.
Yeah.
That's really the starting point for our deep dive today.
Okay.
We're working from a bunch of sources, our listeners shared articles, really detailed notes, all zoning in on this one specific incident on a Patriot Air flight.
Patriot Air.
Got it. Yeah. And what seems like just, a simple argument over a seat, it blows up. Reveals all these layers of bias, influence, and honestly, the surprising fallout from what seemed like small choices made under pressure.
So our mission here is basically to cut through all the noise, right? The headlines, the viral video stuff.
Exactly.
We want to walk you through what actually happened moment by moment, try to understand the motivations going on underneath, and then look at the ripple effects.
It's about getting you, our listener, right to the heart of what the sources say truly mattered, and doing it quickly.
Makes sense.
So, setting the stage. Patriot Air flight, Washington, D.C., heading to New York. The sources really focus on one passenger, Karoline Leavitt, sitting there in seat 2A.
And like we said, she did everything right. Booked early, paid up, on time. She's even a platinum member. That seat was hers, no question.
By the book, totally.
Okay, so here's where it starts getting tense. Caroline's settled, maybe doing some work. Then a flight attendant, Emily Carter, comes over.
And the sources, they mention Emily's tone right off the bat.
Huh?
Bit condescending.
Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telling Karoline she needs to move because there's a VIP passenger who needs the seat.
And the VIP, we know who it was.
We do. The sources are clear. It was Michelle Obama standing right there behind Emily.
Wow. Okay.
So Caroline's confused, right? She's done everything correctly. She's platinum. This is her confirmed seat. She shows her platinum card.
And Emily's reaction.
Well, the sources note her smile kind of stiffens. Like a flicker of surprise, maybe. But she recovers fast.
So the card didn't solve it. It was more like, oh, you're platinum, still got to move.
Pretty much. Emily doubles down, saying seat 2A is, and this is a quote from the notes, typically prioritized for a passenger of significant influence who frequently flies with us.
So the written rules just vanish. Suddenly there's this secret hierarchy based on who you are.
That's exactly how the sources frame it. And what's wild is how quickly it stops being just between Karoline and Emily.
What do you mean?
Other passengers start noticing. Phones come out. And then the whispers start.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the sources specifically mention passengers calling Karoline a Trump person because of her background.
So it immediately gets political.
Instantly. And it gets louder. One passenger nearby, quoted the sources, just says flat out that Michelle Obama deserves the best seat.
So no subtlety there. The political stuff just hits the cabin air.
Hits it hard. And the sources give us context on Karoline, which is important. She's 27, former White House press secretary.
Okay, so she has D.C. connections.
Right. And she's flying to a media conference where she's speaking. She specifically picked 2A for the workspace, needing to prep.
And Patriot Air itself, what's their deal?
Well, the sources paint a picture. They've got this luxury image, right? But internally, things aren't great. Outdated systems, service issues, and crucially, they are deep in talks for some big government transportation contracts.
Ah, okay. So airline needs government deals. Passenger has government ties and needs her seat.
And you've got Emily, the flight attendant, who the sources say admitted later she thought giving the seat to Michelle Obama was the right call. And she felt influenced by other passengers who seemed to share that political view.
It's like a perfect storm brewing right there over seat 2A.
Totally. Emily suggests another seat, maybe somewhere else. Karoline politely says no, explains again she needs the workspace.
Makes sense.
But the pressure keeps building. Another passenger pipes up, claiming Michelle Obama always uses this seat on this route, like it's reserved or something.
Which it wasn't?
Nope. And the sources say the tension's getting really thick now. More people are recording with their phones.
And this next part is where the sources say things really pivot, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
A passenger, described in the notes as a social activist, goes up to Emily, whispers, "Thanks for trying to get the seat for Mrs. Obama," and promises, this is key, that Patriot Air gets praise on social media.
Wow. Not money, but social media praise.
Right. The sources are really specific. It wasn't cash. It was the promise of good press online. And they note Emily actually blushed a little, gave a slight nod.
So that sealed it.
That's what the sources argue, that precise moment. It shifts from a seat dispute to something symbolic of political bias, driven by, The crew wanting that external validation from passengers. It's a really interesting shift.
Okay, so this is way beyond a simple disagreement now. The vibe is bad. Then the supervisor gets involved.
David Lawson, the cabin supervisor. He steps in, and according to the sources, his tone isn't even trying to be nice anymore. It's just a command. Ma'am, we need you to move.
Just like that. No more asking.
Zero pretense. Karoline, though, apparently stays incredibly calm. Just repeats the facts. Confirmed seat, ticket, platinum status.
How does David react to that?
Pure condescension, based on the source descriptions. Suggests she's not familiar with how our airline operates. Doubles down on prioritizing passengers with exceptional influence.
He's basically saying the rules don't apply to her because someone more important wants the seat.
Explicitly. And you can feel the mood shift in the cabin, reading the accounts. Passengers go from just curious to uneasy. More phones are up. Recording what everyone senses is becoming a big deal, likely going viral.
And Michelle Obama's role in this?
Still neutral, according to the sources. She wasn't demanding the seat. This was all driven by the crew and those vocal passengers.
But the pressure on Karoline keeps coming.
From all sides. An impatient passenger complains, saying they have an important meeting. Just give Michelle Obama the seat already. And then that whisper again. She's a Trump person, doesn't deserve that seat.
It's turning into this, mob mentality fueled by politics.
Absolutely. And David, the supervisor, he feels emboldened by the support, leans in close to Karoline. The sources say his voice was low, but people heard it. A clear threat. We can resolve this easily, or it'll have to get difficult.
Basically, move or else.
Exactly. He's putting it all on her.
So how does she respond? I mean, you're being threatened, but you know you're in the right?
Her answer, the sources say, was just rock solid. 6 simple words. I'm not moving. This is my confirmed seat.
Delivered how?
The sources describe it vividly, like a nailed verdict. Just absolute resolution.
Wow. What does David do?
He freezes, flushes bright red, then retreats to call the service phone on the wall.
That's the moment, isn't it?
That's what the sources pinpoint. The line is drawn. An ordinary flight becomes, as one source puts it, a political battle in the skies. People are already posting about it online. And Karoline, she just turns back to her tablet trying to work. Unreal composure.
So a few minutes pass, then what?
The cockpit door opens. Captain Michael Bennett comes out, and he's with David and Emily.
Okay, the captain. This is serious now. Top authority on the plane.
Right. He comes out and states, his crew has the authority to reassign seats, cites convenience and comfort. Standard airline talk.
How does Karoline handle the captain?
Again, fascinating response described in the sources. Not loud, not angry, calm, confident. She acknowledges his authority, sure, but then she lays out her case one more time. Confirmed seat, platinum, needs the workspace. And she points out there's no actual rule requiring her to give up a booked seat just because someone else wants it.
Her delivery.
Described as cutting sharply. Calm but firm.
You could probably hear a pin drop in the cabin.
Total silence, the sources say. Everyone knows this isn't done. And David, the supervisor, he jumps back in, voice described as icy now, escalates the threat. If she stays uncooperative, he'll ask her to leave the flight.
Leave the flight for sitting in her assigned seat.
That's the threat. And this is where the sources note Karoline shows just a flicker of surprise, raises an eyebrow, asked calmly, am I being threatened with removal for keeping my legally booked seat?
Putting it right back on them, forcing them to justify it.
Exactly. The sources call it the undeniable implication of her question. What possible grounds do they have?
And before the captain can even answer that
same passenger who was pushing earlier jumps in again. Voice apparently high-pitched and dramatic, calling the situation outrageous, Michelle Obama an icon, and then ironically complaining about the terrible service.
Oh, the irony.
Right. While the crew is literally prioritizing status over a paying customer's confirmed booking.
So Captain Michael, what's his move?
He adopts a firmer tone, according to the sources. Maybe feeling the pressure, maybe losing patience, gives a final warning, threatens to call security.
And that's when Karoline pulls out her phone.
Precisely. Calmly takes out her phone, starts recording, and states clearly, out loud for the recording, what's happening. That she's being threatened with removal for not giving up her booked seat just because another passenger wants it.
What does David do then? Supervisor David.
He loses it, the sources say. Reaches for her phone, yelling, filming is not allowed, professionalism just gone.
Does he grab it?
No. Karoline pulls it back.
Yeah.
And then she drops some knowledge on him. States there's no federal law prohibiting filming on a plane unless it interferes with crew duties, which it wasn't. Says she's recording to protect her rights.
Wow. She knew the rules.
The sources specifically say her legal knowledge stunned David. He didn't expect that.
And then,
Then you hear it. Heavy footsteps coming down the aisle. 2 airport security officers board the plane, with David guiding them right to Karoline.
oh man, this is it.
This is what the sources call the point of no return.
The cabin must have been dead silent.
Utter silence.
Yeah.
All eyes on Karoline. But she stays composed, phone still recording on her lap, even facing this public humiliation. The officers ask her to leave.
Does she argue?
Not argue, exactly. Same calm composure. She asks them, "What specific airline policy did I violate?" Reiterates her confirmed seat, valid ticket, platinum status.
Putting them on the spot, too.
Totally. And the sources note the officers kind of glance at each other uneasily. They know they've been called for someone who hasn't actually broken any rules. They sort of sidestep her question, just ask her again to gather her things.
This is where she directs the question to the captain, right?
Brilliant move, the sources suggest. Looks right at Captain Michael. Asks him directly, "Am I being removed for refusing to give up my legally booked seat?" Forces him to say it, to own the reason or lack thereof.
Does he answer?
He hesitates, the sources say. Then he states she's being asked to leave for, causing a disturbance.
A disturbance by sitting quietly in her seat.
Exactly. And the sources immediately note it sounded unconvincing, even to the passengers right there.
Yeah.
You hear this murmur of disapproval ripple through the cabin.
People knew it was wrong.
Yeah, the sources describe specific reactions: an old man shaking his head, a young woman quietly crying. They could see the injustice playing out.
So she has to leave.
She does. But how she does it is key. The sources describe her gathering her things with unshakable dignity. Briefcase, notes, stands slowly, walks off the plane, head high, back straight, eyes forward.
Like she owned the moment, even then.
Completely. The sources say her demeanor was of someone who had faced injustice and knew how to preserve their dignity.
And Michelle Obama.
Still neutral in the aisle as Karoline passes. But that one passenger, the supportive one, gets a final smug whisper in. Serves her right. And Trump's people don't belong in that seat.
Awful. But others were still recording this.
Oh, yeah. Pushing back, documenting it all.
Mhm.
And crucially, as Karoline walks past David, the supervisor, that social activist passenger whispers to him. And nearby phones pick it up. "Thank you for handling this. We'll make sure Patriot Air gets praised online." Then add something about how first class needs standards.
Wow. That's damning. The quid pro quo caught on tape.
Exactly. With all those politically toxic implications, as the sources put it. Meant to be private, but now it's evidence.
So Caroline steps off the plane, escorted by security. What happens immediately?
She doesn't crumble. Acts like a seasoned strategist, the sources say. Instantly drafts a text to her trusted aide back at the White House, Sarah Mitchell. Message: "I was removed from the flight, but they picked the wrong person to humiliate."
Straight to the point.
Then she calls Sarah directly. "Get the media and legal teams together immediately. I was just ejected from a flight in a clear case of political bias."
While the security guys are still there.
Right there. And they're looking uneasy, reviewing their report. One actually admits there may have been a misunderstanding.
And Caroline.
Jumps right on it. "There was a misunderstanding," she says, "but not on my part. I was removed for bias." The officers just kind of retreat, apologizing weakly. They realize they got dragged into something totally unrelated to actual security.
Smart. And what?
She immediately records a detailed audio account of everything that happened. Calm, precise, documenting it all while it's fresh.
And this is when the other passenger approaches her.
Yes. Another key moment. This young woman from first class, she couldn't just sit there and watch. She'd gotten off the plane too.
What did she say?
Comes up to Karoline, voice apparently trembling with indignation, says, "I recorded everything." Shows Karoline her phone clear video. Captures the whole thing, even that whispered promise of media support for the crew's bias.
That video is gold.
Absolutely. The young woman calls it clearly political bias, tells Karoline she needs the video.
How does Caroline react?
The sources say her expression softens just for a moment, thanks the woman sincerely, calls the video very helpful. They swap contact info. The woman promises the unedited footage and offers to be a witness.
Incredible. Neither of them knew just how huge that video would become.
Millions of views within hours.
Yeah.
Shaking Patriot Air to its core. But Karoline, she knew its value instantly. Already planning, mobilizing her teams, ready for the fight.
Okay, so back on the plane. What happens? Caroline's gone.
Michelle Obama takes seat 2A. Still composed, the sources reiterate. She never asked for it, The crew just prioritized her because of that passenger pressure.
And Emily, the flight attendant.
Aware now of who Karoline was, but still acting under that pressure, she brings Mrs. Obama complimentary champagne, bowing slightly, apologizing for the disruption, trying to smooth things over, make the rest of the flight perfect.
And behind the scenes, in the galley.
Emily and David, the supervisor, exchange what the sources call knowing glances. David whispers, thanks to her meeting, the activist passenger will get praised online. Still thinking about that reward.
They have no idea what's coming.
Not a clue. The sources add, chillingly, they didn't realize this reward would soon cost them dearly. Suddenly, an urgent call crackles over the crew radio. Patriot Air admin, voice is panicked, sharp. You've made a serious mistake. Knew who the passenger was, so why did this happen?
Ah, reality hits.
Hard. Emily, David, Captain Michael, they look at each other, faces paling. They knew who Karoline was, but they caved to passenger pressure, the desire to avoid bad press from, certain media outlets. Fear starts creeping in. This isn't minor anymore. It's a crisis because of who they targeted.
Meanwhile, back at Patriot Air HQ in Arlington,
CEO Robert Harrison is looking at financial reports. His PR director, Laura Evans, calls, voice shaking.
that video of Karoline's removal, it's blowing up online everywhere.
How does the CEO react initially?
That dismisses it.
Yeah.
Thinks it's just another passenger complaint. Happens all the time.
But Laura pushes back.
Insists. No, this is different. It's Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary. Explains the crew knew. They pressured her for Michelle Obama due to passenger demands, and the video shows them agreeing to that promise of media support for being biased.
Okay, that gets his attention. The sources say the color just drains from his face. He gets it immediately. Karoline Leavitt. Powerful. Influences those government transportation contracts Patriot Air desperately needs. He demands to see the video, voice trembling. This isn't just bad PR, it could sink the airline.
What's his reaction watching it?
From dismissal to horror, the sources describe. Sees the unfairness, the crew accepting that quid pro quo, Karoline's incredible dignity under pressure. Calls it a public relations disaster. Confirms her identity again, press secretary, manages communications, influences contracts. The full weight just lands on him. Crisis mode.
And Karoline, where is she now?
VIP lounge at Reagan National. Already in command mode. Her team's there, Sarah Mitchell, chief legal counsel, communications director, laptops out, phones buzzing, focused energy.
They know the video's gone viral.
Oh yeah. Comms director reports 2 million views already, major news outlets picking it up, trending everywhere. Karoline, according to the sources, notes the irony. The crew knew who she was, caved to political pressure from Michelle Obama, and basically exposed their true colors without thinking it through.
What's happening back at Patriot HQ?
Total meltdown in the social media department. Robert Harrison's assistant interrupts him. Mrs. Leavitt's office is on the line. Wants to speak directly to leadership now.
He takes the call.
Puts it on speaker, voice strained. Offers deepest apologies for the unacceptable incident. Trying to smooth it over.
Does anyone else chime in?
Yeah, the CFO, maybe not fully grasping the political dynamite yet, panics again. Blurts out her title. She's the White House press secretary. Robert just nods grimly. He knows.
And Karoline's response to the apology?
Calm, measured, but sharp. Comes through the speaker. Appreciates the call, but gets right to it. Says the crew knew her identity, chose bias because of political pressure anyway. This whole thing raises serious questions about Patriot Air's professionalism, especially with those government contract negotiations underway.
Oof, hits him where it hurts.
You see the executives exchanging panicked looks in the source descriptions. Karoline's voice shifts then. No room for negotiation left. Demands an urgent meeting with leadership. Today. That bias, caught on video. It threatens the airline's credibility in government dealings, period.
So the emergency meeting happens.
Convened at lightning speed, board members rushing in, atmosphere's just thick with dread. Then Karoline Leavitt walks in with her team. Calm, confident. Sources note she's wearing the same suit she wore on the flight. Silent power move. She knows her leverage.
Does Harrison show the video?
Puts it up on a big screen. The sources call it crisp and devastating. Every moment. David's condescension, the captain's weak excuses, and most damningly, that passenger's promise of media support for bias, clearly audible. Dead silence in the boardroom. Some board members literally can't look at Karoline.
Harrison tries to apologize again.
Voice trembling, yeah. Says this doesn't reflect their values. But Karoline cuts him off. Calm, but resolute. I'm not interested in apologies.
Wow. Blunt.
Shocks them, the sources say. Standard corporate damage control. Not going to work here. She lays out her demands. Non-negotiable.
Which are?
1. Emily Carter, David Lawson, Captain Michael Bennett suspended immediately, pending investigation. 2, she will recommend the administration review Patriot Air's government contract.
Does Harrison try to bargain?
Yeah, mentions their years of service, union issues, maybe just a temporary suspension.
And Karoline.
Unwavering. This is not a negotiation. Her words. Either take accountability or I will ensure the Department of Transportation launches a full investigation. The multi-million-dollar government contract you're pursuing will be at serious risk.
She's laying down the law.
The sources say her words carried undeniable weight. She holds all the cards, and right then,
Yeah.
a financial analyst bursts into the room. Stock price, down 12% and falling fast. Analysts predict a 30% plunge if they don't act decisively. Now,
Game over for Harrison.
complete realization hits him. This isn't just a scandal, it's an existential threat. The woman they kicked off the plane now held the airline's fate in her hands.
Okay, so the board has to act. What about the crew? Downstairs somewhere.
Yep, 3 floors below. Small, windowless room. Emily, David, Michael, sitting in tense silence, summoned but no explanation why. Then the HR director, Ellen Brooks, walks in. With legal counsel and security.
Uh-oh. Never a good sign.
Ellen gets straight to it, no preamble. Your employment contracts with Patriot Air are terminated effective immediately.
How do they react?
Emily starts sobbing. David grimaces. Michael just closes his eyes. David tries to protest passenger pressure. Levi was difficult.
Does HR buy that?
Not for a second. Ellen puts her laptop down, plays the viral video, shows David's condescension, knowing who Karoline was, Emily looking uncomfortable but doing nothing, Michael's weak justifications, and loudest of all, that passenger's whisper about social media praise for bias, about maintaining standards.
Caught red-handed by their own actions and the recordings.
Ellen's question cuts deep. You call this pressure. You knew exactly who Karoline Leavitt was, yet you prioritized another passenger for fame and political pressure. Ask point blank if agreeing to favoritism in exchange for bias is company policy.
What can they even say?
Emily breaks down completely. Tears streaming, admits we made a terrible mistake, knew it was wrong, didn't stop it, says, my silence made me complicit. Michael, the captain, tries to explain he trusted his crew, didn't see the start of it, but it doesn't hold water.
What's the final word from HR?
Ellen's voice is firm. You failed in your responsibilities today, not just to the company, but to basic human dignity. They're escorted out. Final paycheck includes just 2 weeks severance, which, Ellen adds, is already overly generous in this situation.
Wow, swift and brutal.
The sources note the symmetry. The public humiliation they feel now mirrors what Karoline endured, described as both perfect and brutal, like a harsh lesson in justice.
Okay, crew's fired, but the airline knows that's not enough, right? Needs a bigger gesture.
Absolutely. They need to show profound change. So hundreds of employees gather in the main auditorium. CEO Robert Harrison walks on stage. And significantly, Karoline Leavitt and her team join him.
Whoa, she's there, on stage with him.
Yeah. Powerful visual. Harrison gives a statement, admits Patriot Air failed a passenger. Seriously. Says it wasn't just isolated, but a symptom of systemic issues they have to fix. Immediately. Comprehensively.
Then Karoline speaks.
She does. And she emphasizes this isn't just about punishing people. It's about transforming Patriot's entire culture. Makes the point crystal clear. What happened was wrong not because she was press secretary, but because it would be equally wrong for anyone.
How did the employees react?
Listening intently. Some nodding, some looking ashamed. And then Harrison drops the bombshell announcement, the big commitment.
What is it?
Patriot Air will halt all operations for 48 hours starting tomorrow. Every single flight grounded for phase 1 of mandatory company-wide training.
Halt operations for 2 days. That's huge for an airline.
Unprecedented. Gasps in the auditorium, the sources say. Costs millions. But the message it sends about their commitment to change, the sources call that priceless.
So the shutdown happens, training begins. What's that like?
Intense. The sources describe the following weeks and months as the most comprehensive transformation in its 30-year history. Meeting rooms become training centers. Schedules adjusted so everyone, baggage handlers, pilots, execs, everyone gets mandatory anti-bias training.
Is it just like standard HR stuff? Check the box?
No, deliberately not. Described as intensive, challenging, uncomfortable, not perfunctory. And what makes it really powerful, Karoline Leavitt gets personally involved.
She attends the training?
Attends sessions, stands up in front of employees, some of whom are probably skeptical, defensive. She tells them, look, this is your chance to be part of the solution. What happened to me, it happens daily to people without the power platform I have. Today, we start changing that.
That must have had an impact.
Transformative for some, the sources suggest. Humanizes it. Seeing her there, engaging, pushing for real change, not revenge, it makes the training feel urgent, real.
Meanwhile, what about Emily, David, and Michael? The fired crew.
Consequences hit hard outside Patriot Air. Their names, faces synonymous with that viral video, with political bias in aviation. Reputation is everything in that industry.
So finding new jobs is tough.
Brutal. Davey gets rejection after rejection. Nobody wants to hire the man from the viral video. Emily faces the same wall. One interview ends the second the recruiter recognizes her. Michael, 30 years experience, can't even land a low-level gig. His entire career overshadowed by those few minutes of bad judgment.
And the passenger. The one who promised the social media praise.
Doesn't get away scot-free either. Patriot Air hits her with a lifetime flight ban. Her own employer puts her on administrative leave. Friends distance themselves. She's forced, the sources note, to finally confront the consequences of her own politically biased actions.
Back at Patriot Air, are the policy changes real, lasting?
Seems so. Sweeping changes implemented. Zero tolerance for political bias. Overhaul procedures for seat disputes. And, importantly, new policies protecting employees who report misconduct so they don't fear retaliation. The handbook is rewritten, accepting any inducement from passengers for preferential treatment, grounds for immediate firing.
Do passengers notice a difference?
Yes, according to the sources. Frequent flyers report a real shift. Crew seems more attentive to everyone now. That feeling of an invisible hierarchy based on your political leanings or how you presented yourself, gone.
Seat issues get handled better.
Professionally. Resolved without passengers feeling dismissed. It's not overnight, not perfect, but gradually, Patriot Air starts living up to its claims, treating every passenger fairly.
Does Karoline stay involved?
As White House spokesperson, she oversees the implementation. Independent auditors verify the changes. The airline stock recovers. Hiring practices are revamped. Diversity and inclusion become more than just buzzwords.
So it genuinely changes, becomes a place where everyone's treated fairly.
That's the picture painted by the sources, regardless of politics or status.
Okay, so fast forward 6 months. Where are things?
Here's where this story gets really interesting, maybe unexpected. Patriot Air, thriving. Passenger numbers up 12%. Employee satisfaction, high. The toxic stuff got exposed, and it's healing.
But the really surprising part
Comes from Karoline Leavitt herself. She announces a new initiative, backed by the White House, the Second Chance Program.
what's that?
A fund specifically for people who lost their jobs because of bias incidents. Offers comprehensive retraining, helps them find a path back to employment.
Why would she do that? For the people involved in her incident.
Her explanation, according to the sources, accountability doesn't have to mean permanent punishment. It means creating chances for people who own their mistakes and genuinely want to change. Can't build a fairer society, she argues, without giving people a way forward after consequences.
So, does the crew participate? Emily, David, Michael?
They are among the very first participants, yes.
Wow. Must have been difficult.
Incredibly, the sources say it forces them to confront uncomfortable truths. Understand the impact not just on Caroline, but on everyone who faces bias without her platform.
Do we know how they handled it individually?
Yeah, the sources offer some insight. David, who was maybe the most resistant initially, undergoes a profound change. Talks about how bias was just normalized in their environment, admits he never saw himself as biased, thought just not criticizing certain groups made him okay. The incident showed him how bias operates subtly, even when we don't see it.
And Emily.
Her journey is framed around moral courage, knowing it was wrong, but being scared. Now understanding, my silence made me complicit, the cost of not speaking up.
Michael, the captain.
Maybe the toughest road, being older, decades believing he was fair, shattered. He reflects, I trusted the wrong thing. I prioritized hierarchy over people. I'll spend the rest of my career making it right. Powerful stuff.
So they complete the program. Then what? Do they get jobs?
With certifications in hand, Emily and David start applying again. Entry-level jobs. Their resumes now include their stories, not excuses, but context for growth. The certification shows they've done the work.
So does it work?
Emily gets hired first. Ground staff, regional airline. Lower pay, longer hours, tough work. But it's a second chance. David follows, gets a job as a baggage handler. Grueling, but a start. Rebuilding.
What about Michael? Too low for baggage handling, maybe.
He doesn't go back to commercial flying. Finds a new purpose, though. Assists with instruction in the Second Chance program, helping others understand the consequences of choices like his, turning his failure into a lesson.
And Patriot Air, how are they doing long term?
Continues the overhaul. Policies stick. Fairness and professionalism become the norm. Independent auditors confirm they now lead the industry in customer satisfaction across all demographics.
So passengers notice, regardless of their politics.
Yeah, people from all sides report service equal to or better than before. A standard that, the sources note, should always been there, but was basically unprecedented until this happened.
They kept innovating, too.
Yeah, protecting employees who report issues, transparent ways to resolve disputes. Patriot Air becomes this case study, how to overcome a massive crisis by tackling mistakes head-on, committing to real change.
So looking back 6 months after the flight, it's a totally different picture.
Completely. Patriot Air thriving. The Second Chance program seen as a model. Emily, David, Michael, rebuilding, finding meaning, even inspiring others. Their journeys suggest, as the sources put it, justice is not just punishment, but an opportunity for redemption.
Is there a final interaction between Karoline and the CEO?
Yes, a private meeting described in the sources. Patriot Air HQ, Karoline and Robert Harrison reviewing the progress. Karoline acknowledges the change. You've shown real change here. That deserves recognition.
And Harrison
Admits, it hasn't been easy, but it was absolutely necessary. What happened to you that day forced us to confront issues we'd ignored for years.
Caroline's response captures it all, doesn't it?
Perfectly. Her reflection. That's often how change happens. Not through comfort, but through confrontation. They shake hands, not enemies, maybe not friends, but partners in a transformation.
And that final idea from the sources. Justice being about progress, not just punishment.
Yeah, a powerful thought to end that part of the narrative on.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, looking back at all these sources, it's pretty clear how one seemingly straightforward incident of bias just ripped the lid off huge systemic problems at a major company.
Definitely. We saw Caroline's individual resolve, right? The power in that, but also the serious consequences for the crew, for that passenger when they gave in to pressure and that subtle, insidious bias.
And you can't ignore the public accountability angle. That viral video, the stock dropping, the firings, it all mattered immensely.
But maybe the most striking part is what came after, the potential for real systemic change.
Yeah.
And even, redemption. Patriot Air's transformation, the whole Second Chance program, it shows that tackling bias directly can lead to positive outcomes, even for those who messed up.
Yeah, it really offers lessons for anyone, doesn't it? About standing up when things aren't fair, how even small prejudices can have big impacts, and, well, the power of documenting things and demanding accountability the right way.
It really demonstrates how holding systems responsible can actually create space for healing and growth. For everyone involved, really. The person wronged, and even those who did the wrong thing.
Which brings us to that final thought the sources leave us with. This whole intense story, starting with someone being unfairly kicked off a plane, somehow ends up creating this path for learning, growth, even second chances.
Right. So what does that tell us about how we, living in this pretty polarized world, can deal with bias, not just addressing past wrongs, but actively building a future where everyone, truly everyone, gets treated with dignity and fairness, no matter who they voted for or what group they belong to.
Maybe it suggests that first step is just acknowledging that subtle bias in ourselves and the systems around us. That seems to be where real, lasting change begins.
Could be. Definitely something to think about.